I was recently honored to be a guest on Scott Watson's Go Small Live Large YouTube channel on one of his weekly What's Up Wednesday segments. There were a lot of good questions asked during the show, but not sure if we answered them fully. We had a lot to talk about. That said, I thought I'd do a little video to review those questions and see if I couldn't answer anything we missed. So let's get started. First up is a question from Steve R. My SL floor plan build starts in November, and I'm wondering if there were additional options that you wish you had added since you've been traveling in your SL for a while. First off, congratulations, Steve, on the new build. Regarding options, the only major change we made was adding shelves in the area that was a hanging closet. That worked out very well for us since we don't need to hang clothes and we get extra drawer space. I believe Embassy has a new system of removable shelves, so you could actually still use the space as a hanging closet if you need to. Another thing we did was have Elite Auto Care do our window tinting, which has worked out very well, but I think we should have added a little darker tint to the side windows, just to make it look more stealth. We may go back to do that at some point, but for now, it's all good. That said, there are some things we would not have purchased, like the door screens. I just don't like the ones Embassy has. You can't close the door since the screen attaches on the outside of the van with magnet. And I'm not a big fan of their long-running boards on the outside of the van. We need them, but have sometimes scratched the bottom of them in tight spaces, and they could be shorter. The next question is from Amore Van, and is also about our build. Robert, if you could make one change to the Dolphin SL floor plan, what would it be? Good question. And it brings up the issue of compromises. I just did a video on needs and wants and options, so you may want to refer to that. In the case of our SL, which has separate living and bedroom areas, you have to make some compromises, like having to do a crab crawl when going from front to back. The aisle has to be a little on the narrow side to fit everything in. We also don't have a lot of windows since the storage of the van goes from floor to ceiling, which offers a great deal of storage but blocks window light. And because of the less than open floor plan, we're working on better airflow from back to front. There are always compromises in any design. You have to know what your absolute needs are. If you say you must have a van that is 22 feet or less, but then look at a 23-foot van because it has something you want, then the length is not a need, but a want. You're never going to get everything. You don't have infinite space to work with.
The inside's bigger than the outside?
Yeah.
The short answer is, I wouldn't change a thing, since doing so would remove some of the needs we have just to satisfy a want, which is always a bad idea. Always keep your needs in mind and deal with the wants as they arise. The next question is from Grant Hoover, who asks, Robert, how is the bathroom working for you? Working great. We purchased the Seahead composting toilet because if anything breaks, it's very easy to repair. You just go to the local hardware store and get parts right off the shelf. We really like it because it doesn't require a fan or lights or anything to work. It's all manual. It uses pet bedding as compost material, so that is a slight expense, but not nearly as much as some other toilet designs, so that's good. Of course, you have to clean it out periodically, so just keep that in mind. Mark Weiner has two questions. Rob, is there any warranty on the Seahead, and if it failed later, would you change it? Unfortunately, the company has gone out of business, so if we decide to ever replace the toilet, we would have to go with something else. I think at this time, Embassy offers either the Lavio Dry Flush or the Separate Tiny. Both are good choices, but we'd probably lean towards the Separate. The cassettes for the Lavio are just too expensive in my view. And his next question is, how long does it take to dump your gray water tanks? 2 23 gallons? I understand you have a small hose for that. To clarify, there are 2 bladders in the Embassy, both 23 gallons, but one is for fresh water and the other is for gray water. I fill up the fresh water with a hose, but I've never actually timed how long it takes to fill. I just wait for it to overflow a little and then I know it's full. I guess it would depend on the water pressure. The gray bladder has a drain hose connected to it, which I find a little short, so I purchased another hose to connect to it so it could reach a drain. I haven't actually timed how long that takes either, but the bladder never actually fills up all the way since a lot of water is used for drinking or cooking or whatever, so it really isn't that much of an issue. I just let it drain as I'm working on other stuff, so haven't really worried about it. Dave49 asks, is the AC running off of battery? Yes, it is. Everything in the van is 12 volt except for the 120 plugs, the microwave, and the TV antenna. Everything else is 12 volts, so gets power from the battery. This is actually a good question that needs some clarification. Even when you are plugged into some kind of outside power source like a 30 amp outlet at an RV park or plugged into your household 15 amp plug, you're still using the battery to power 12 volt systems, at least in the embassy. The power from an outlet outside your van is charging your battery, not directly powering anything that uses 12 volt. Those appliances, including our 12 volt TV and air conditioner, are always getting the power from the battery, which is of course 12 volt. If we need to use a 120 volt system like our microwave, we turn on the inverter, which takes power from the battery and converts it to 120 volt. So in essence, those systems are also being powered by the battery, albeit through the inverter. I don't know if there's some kind of bypass when you're plugged into an outside power source that skips the battery to power 120 volt systems. I don't think there is. It seems to me it would be rather complicated to do that, so it probably is still using the battery to power everything, even when plugged in. But don't take my word for it. Ask Embassy for specifics. Okay, the next question from Van Liberty is going to be a little tricky to answer. He asks, trying to time the next SpaceX Starship launch that may be the end of September in Boca Chica, Texas. What kind of temps should I expect at the time with things being so hot this year? The short answer is it's going to be hot. Usually it will range from a low of about 70 degrees or so to a high of around 90. But with the crazy temperatures we've had of late, usually in the hundreds somewhere, I just can't predict. Boca Chica is on the Gulf, so theoretically there will be a breeze, but that breeze can sometimes just be a lot of hot air. It really depends on Mother Nature and how she's feeling that day, and with the way the weather's been of late, I'd say she ain't feeling that great. So I'll say the same thing I tell everyone visiting Texas. In summer months, prepare for summer and winter. And in winter months, do the same thing. Because that's just how crazy our weather can get. And for those who are wondering, we don't have fall and spring. We replace those with stormy flood and biting mosquito. And now our final question is from the best Facebook admin on the planet, our very own Sherry Ducro, the guiding force for the Embassy Owners and Wannabes group. Oh, you don't know about the Embassy Owners and Wannabes group? Well, our Embassy Owners and Wannabes group has just turned 2 years old, and we're waiting for you to join. If you have any interest in Embassy RVs, it's the place to hang out and get to know other wannabes and owners too. There are even ways to get to see an embassy in the wild. So come on by and say hi. The link is in the description below. Be seeing you. Sherry Ducro asks, are you more urban camping, campgrounds, or BLM? This is such a great question. It has all to do with the RV lifestyle. So, when you start thinking about RVing, you really need to know why you want to travel in an RV, as opposed to a car or flying or whatever. There are pros and cons with RV travel, and you need to know what your travel style is going to be so you can make the experience as enjoyable as you can. For us, we travel with our dog and sometimes with our daughter. We prefer small towns more than big tourist sites and aren't that much into nature. If we boondock, it's at a casino or at a Cracker Barrel or Harvest Host or something, but not in the middle of nowhere. And sometimes we like to take a real shower, so stay at an RV park every few days. The reason we chose RV travel is because it gave us opportunities we wouldn't really have using a car or by flying to locations. For instance, we stopped by an old friend's farm recently, and while there, got to see some amazing things in that area, including a community quilt exhibit and a makerspace. We were able to stay on the farm, but got to stay in our van with all the comforts of home, so to speak. We aren't exactly farm material. I love all y'all, but goats and chickens just ain't our thing. In contrast, if we were in a car, honestly, we probably wouldn't have gone to visit them. It's just too far out of the way, and we'd want a hotel, and it just isn't the same using a car. When we do travel by car, we travel to a specific tourist location and need to be there at a specific time to check into a hotel. We need to figure out where we are, where we're going to eat, what we need to do the next day to get to the next hotel. It's a big production. In an RV, we are the hotel. We are the restaurant. No need to worry about where to stay, what to eat, or what our next stop has to be. We can drive shorter distances and can stop anywhere to see whatever's on the way. It's just a different kind of travel. So the answer is, we don't necessarily urban camp, but prefer to stay at a Harvest Host or a casino parking lot, although we have stayed in cities before, just parked in a parking lot. The RV park is as close to a campground as we get, and that's so we can use showers and toilets more than anything else. And while a BLM site isn't out of the question, we've never done it. Like I said, nature isn't really our thing. We're more museum and history buffs and prefer Epicurean delights like good restaurants and craft beer wineries. So there you have it. A somewhat longer Q&A than what I had planned, but what do you expect? It's me talking. One of my favorite pastimes. Be seeing you.